Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. I want to echo what Senator Kramer said about the miraculous work you did for Paycheck Protection Program. I mean, that was back when I was advising banking clients. I'm not sure I would have put my foot on the accelerator as much as you all did, given that you were trying to figure out the rules of the road when the Treasury Secretary was giving you updates on facts. I mean, if people really understand the risk that you took ahead of the curve, everybody in Congress should be thankful that you did it, because I think it saved the economy. As a matter of fact, we had several bipartisan bills. We were reacting to something none of us had ever seen. We hadn't seen a pandemic in 100 years. And those bipartisan bills, I think, made the difference between what I think could have been a fiscal disaster and helped us weather the storm. But now I want to talk about what's happened over the last year and a half. We went from a series of bipartisan bills that we spent more than any one of us would have wanted to, into a series of partisan bills that I think are, at least in part, one of the reasons why we have the problems that we do today. $2.5 trillion on a purely partisan basis flooding the zone with more liquidity than we probably needed. Under President Biden, we're authorizing 80,000 more IRS agents. We're going to retire student loan debt, which is going to be more stimulus into the system, $201 billion in additional regulatory costs, 131 million hours of net new paperwork. The president has signed 77 executive orders, the highest since President Ford, 40 times more than President Trump in the same time period, and 3 times more than President Obama. Last week, I had the occasion to go to Jacksonville, Florida. I always make time to drive 15 minutes away from it to visit the trailer park that I grew up at. At that time, it was about a plot of land, about 10 acres with 6 or 7 trailers on it. Now it's got 100. And all but 6 are permanent residences. One of the reasons I do that, and I'll be going to the trailer park I grew up in Nashville next month, one of the reasons I go through there is just to have a chance conversation with somebody there like me, a 19-year-old kid. I moved from Waikiki Boulevard, which it was called Hawaiian Village, where my parents lived, to Sugarcane Lane in the same trailer park, putting myself through community college. I like that chance opportunity to go to people and say, you can get out at where you are today, it's not where you can be. But I'm not really going, I didn't go to that trailer park on Friday, and I won't go to the one next month and have the same sort of optimism. In the hearing, or not the hearing, but in Chair Powell's speech from Jackson Hole, he has clearly indicated to me that we are into tough sledding next year. The rates are going to get up to 4 to 4.25%. And I don't see how it is possible. And in his words, he's talking about we're going to have a period of below trend growth. To a layperson, what I'd tell that person in the trailer park is we're headed for a recession. And it's probably going to happen sometime second half of next year. Now, I know also Chair Powell said perception is reality, so let's not think that we're going into a recession because that could actually hasten it. I get that. But this is go time. This is when people need to start planning. And I think it's almost unavoidable that those people that grew up or growing up in the same circumstances that I have are going to suffer from the policies coming from this body, not what you all are doing. And we have to recognize that, and we have to prepare people for that. I do have one question, and then I may have a few other comments. I actually believe that stakeholder feedback and engagement has been foundational to what you banks have done since you were founded. You invest in the community. I just spoke to the president of the North Carolina Bank for Bank of America. You've got a pilot in 5 cities now trying to go into some of the most distressed neighborhoods and encourage business and growth. You take stakeholders' input into account, but I've just got one simple question. If you can raise your hands if you agree with this. At the end of the day, is it still shareholder primacy that ultimately drives your decision process? At the end of the day, the people who have invested in your banks, the people who have risk in it, just show of hands. At the end of the day, when you have to make a decision, you take the input from stakeholders, but then you make a decision. Thank you. Did I not see a show of hand over there? Okay. Thank you. So I think we need to get away from the woke and everything else. The only other question I have for you, are there any, there are people talking about stakeholder capitalism is going to cause you all to make a strategic decision to unbank the energy industry, particularly fossil fuels? Are any of you planning to get out of that business? Okay. So I, for one, think that we need fewer regulations in this space. And just something that Senator Kennedy made, and I'll finish here. He said that you all need to speak up. But how on earth can you speak up if you're fulfilling your fiduciary responsibility as shareholders when you've got somebody out of control at the CFPB, the FDIC is a shambles, and the SEC? How can you possibly do that and fulfill your fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders, because they will rain down hell on you? So I, for one, think that Mr. Diamond, many others have alluded to it, if we want to avoid the bad story that I've got to tell those folks in the trailer park I'll go visit next month in Nashville, we better get our act together, stop spending, stop taxing, right-size regulations, because we can do more to avoid a fiscal crisis next year, a recession next year, than anything you all could possibly do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.